name is Nathaniel Kerr. This is my new channel for pro tourism videos. It's a school project. This week, we are going to different historical places and churches around Plymouth so we can find out a little bit more about them. Our first stop today is the Forefathers Monument. This 81-foot tall monument commemorates the Mayflower Pilgrims coming here in 1620. Dedicated in 1889, it honors their ideals later embraced by the United States. The monument, which faces northeast to Plymouth Harbor and roughly towards Plymouth, England, is on Allerton Street. The plan of it is octagonal with 4 small and 4 large faces. On the main pedestal stands the heroic figure of Faith, with her right hand pointing towards heaven and her left hand clutching the Bible. Under the 4 seats below are seated figures which resemble the principles upon which the Pilgrims founded their Commonwealth. The faces of each are in marble, representing scenes from Plymouth history. Under mortality is embarkation, under law is treaty, under education is compact, and under freedom is their landing. It is thought to be the world's largest granite monument. You can go up to the top of it, and it is completely free. One person who had a real experience at the Forefathers Monument is Plymouth native Davis Ball. Davis Ball, how was your experience at the Forefathers Monument?
Well, first off, I think the monument's really beautiful and high quality. But with my experience, one day, my friend and I, we decided to bike down to Forefathers, and we climbed it together. And as we were doing that, I happened to lose my footing, and I fell about 15 feet and ended up spraining my ankle.
Wow, now you have a real experience with the Forefathers Monument, definitely. A real connection.
Do not climb national monuments.
Our next stop is Burial Hill. Burial Hill is a historic cemetery on School Street in Plymouth. Established in the 17th century, it provides commanding views over the surrounding landscape and coastline. There are more than 2,000 marked graves dating from 1680 to 1957. The first pilgrim burial ground was on nearby Coles Hill in 1620 to 21. Originally, the Pilgrims constructed a fort atop of Burial Hill in 1621 to 1622, and a reconstruction exists in nearby Plymouth Plantation. The Burial Hill Fort also served as a meeting house for the colony and for the first parish church until 1677. According to tradition, the first grave on Burial Hill was Pilgrim John Howland. However, he did not die until 1672, and other people claimed to be buried there died considerably earlier. The First Parish's congregation currently meets in an 1899 church building at the base of Burial Hill on Town Square, near where they met in 1621. Some notable burials at Burial Hill are Mary Allerton, the last surviving Mayflower passenger, William Bradford, governor, William Brewster, a church elder, and John Howland, a Mayflower passenger. Adoniram Judson, a Christian missionary to Asia, Thomas Prince, a colonial governor, Zabdiel Sampson, a colonial congressman, James Warren, a patriot leader, Mary Otis Warren, an author, and Elizabeth Walker Warren, a passenger on the Anne who came over from England after the Mayflower. Squanto, a Patuxet guide and interpreter, is here, but he has an unmarked grave. Lastly is a person very close to me and my family, which is Francis Cook. He is one of my ancestors. He was one of the signers of the Mayflower Compact, too. There's one spooky story I have heard about Burial Hill. Mayflower descendant Thomas Southward Howland, who in the 1700s tried to evict an old woman from a shack on his land. Unfortunately for Howland, the squatter, according to local lore, was witch Mother Crew, who responded, "Make your peace because you will not live to see another sunset. They'll dig your grave on Burial Hill." Indeed, Howland was knocked dead the next day by his horse, and the spades turned on the soil of his family plot atop the cemetery. Ooh, scary. Our next stop is Coles Hill. Coles Hill is a National Historic Landmark containing the first cemetery used by the Mayflower Pilgrims in Plymouth, Massachusetts in 1620. The hill is located on Carver Street, across the street from Plymouth Rock. Owned since 1820 by the Preservationist Pilgrim Society, it is now a public park. A number of monuments and memorials are on the hill, most of which date back to the Pilgrim Age. These include a cypress Dolan statue of the Wampanoag Sachem, Massasoit, circa 1581 to 1661, whose support was critical to the Pilgrim's survival. At the southern end of the hill stands a granite sarcophagus erected by the General Society of Mayflower Descendants in 1920. It contains skeleton remains accidentally found from the hill in the 18th and 19th centuries, which are believed to be those of Mayflower settlers buried here in the winter of 1620 and 1621, when 52 out of the 102 pilgrims died. Some of the people in the sarcophagus are John Carver, Elizabeth Winslow, Miss Mary Allerton, which is controversial, Rose Standish, Christopher Martin, Solomon Powers, William Mullins, William White, John and Edward Tilley, and Thomas Rogers. The total burials may have been between 45 and 50 people. On Coles Hill every year, you can sit for the On Coles Hill every year, you can sit on it for the 4th of July parade, Thanksgiving Day parade, and many more. Remember, that is very steep, too. 4 or 5 years ago for the Thanksgiving Day parade, I was sitting with my friends, and we tried to push each other down the hill. I pushed Evan White all the way down the hill, and there was no stopping him or me once I was pushed down, too. Haha, good times. Mr. William Bradford, such a nice guy. And here at our 4th stop is the William Bradford statue near the coastline. Just a short walk from Plymouth Rock is this beautiful statue. William Bradford, one of the Mayflower Pilgrims, became leader of the Plymouth colony when the original leader, John Carver, died in the first winter. William Bradford was an English Puritan originally from West Riding of Yorkshire, who later moved to Leiden in Holland, and then in 1620 migrated to the Plymouth colony on the Mayflower. He was a signatory to the Mayflower Compact and went on to serve as the governor of the Plymouth colony intermittently for about 30 years until between 1621 and 1657. His journal of Plymouth Plantation covered the years from 1620 to 1657 in Plymouth. He's a very important person in the town. For our next stop, we have the Cordage Park Company in Plymouth. The Plymouth Cordage Company was a rope-making company located in Plymouth, Massachusetts, USA. The company, founded in 1824, had a large factory located on the Plymouth waterfront. By the late 19th century, the Plymouth Cordage Company had become the largest manufacturer of rope and twine in the country. The company specialized in ship rigging and was chosen among other competitors in the early 1900s to manufacture the rope used on the USS Constitution. The company's twine, Plymouth binder twine, popular among farmers, was the inspiration for naming the Plymouth brand of automobiles first produced in 1928. The Plymouth Cordage Company served as the largest employer in Plymouth for over 100 years. It went out of business in 1964 after over 140 years of continuous operation. By the early 1960s, it had bought all the materials needed for production, had no debt and a lot of cash, and was bought out by the Columbian Rope Company in 1965. A member of the Peabody family, with lots of shares in the business, relocated a portion of the equipment to Haiti to continue producing sisal rope. Parts of the original machinery and 1/3 of the original rope walk building is now on display at Mystic Seaport in Mystic, Connecticut. The original rope walk building was 110 feet long, the length needed to twist a 90-foot rope.
Rope was made manually until the 1890s. To make rope, men put fibers around their waists and walked backward down the rope walk as they twisted the fibers in a process similar to how yarn is made. The twisted pieces were stored on pegs on the wall. Eventually, another man wound the twisted fibers on a wheel. A model of the rope walk is displayed at the Plymouth Cordage Museum in the original mill number 3 under the tower. The museum is open noon to 4 p.m. each weekend, and it includes over 2,000 original items and publications donated by prior employees and their relatives. The Plymouth Cordage Company played a small role in the Sacco and Vanzetti case. Vanzetti worked at the company in the early part of the century. Upton Sinclair's historical novel, Boston, has several chapters devoted to the company when his elderly heroine goes to work for the factory. Plymouth Cordage also operated a factory in Welland, Ontario. Here's a funny string joke I once heard. So 2 strings walk into a bar, and the bartender looks at them suspiciously. He says, "Sorry, boys, we don't serve your kind here." So the pieces of string walk out again. They're sitting in the gutter outside and feeling really, really thirsty when one piece of string says, "Hey, I've got an idea to get me back into the bar." So he starts twisting and turning, wriggling this way and that, pulling out a few strands here and there. His mate's looking at him and thinks he's gone completely nuts. Then the piece of string walks back into the bar. The bartender looks at him a little suspiciously again and says, "Here, you're not a bit of string, are you?" The piece of string replies, "No, I'm afraid not." Get it? Haha, rope jokes.
Our next stop is the iconic Spire Center. The Spire Center for Performing Arts is located at the former Beth Jacobs Community Center across from the 1820 courthouse in downtown Plymouth. This will be the home of the Plymouth Community Theater and Mark Bryden's C-Sound Audio and Telecom Studios. The Greater Plymouth Performing Arts Center Incorporated, or GPPAC, which is a nonprofit organization, will maintain and manage the center. The Spire's 3-story, 225-seat, impressive performance hall and a custom-built stage boasts tremendous acoustics, sightlines, and a beautiful interior as its trademark. An adjacent reception room, studio spaces, and resident C-Sound recording studios make the venue an attractive musical and theatrical destination and resource. The funny thing about the Spire is that the Spire was formerly a church building last owned by the congregation of Beth Jacob, which used to be a Jewish community center. But it's more interesting that before that congregation, my church was here. They later joined together with another Portuguese church higher up on the hill in Plymouth to become the Plymouth United Methodist Church. Each church made the big march, about 2 to 3 miles, that shut down most of the roads in Plymouth, to the new church, which is on Carver Road. It's everyone's favorite time in the show, the Joke Corner. How are trumpets like pirates? They always murder on the high seas. Ha!
Hey guys, and that concludes a third of the historical places that I will visit on our journey. So remember, the addresses of most of the places are in the description below, and make sure to check them out if you need them. If you guys have any questions or comments, make sure to leave them below and to like and subscribe for more content. See ya!